what if even through that same weapon, Sargeras was still being controlled? I mean, think about this. If that energy within the sword is anima of Argus or Sargeras, or even the pure source of Argus's soul, if the Titans have control over that and are channeling that through their seat, could they make Sargeras do something? Could they force his hand? I guess I'm proposing the idea that did they make him stab the planet? Why couldn't Sargeras just have a change of heart? He could as well. I'm not saying that they had to have forced him. I'm just throwing the idea out there. I think that he was putting the other half of the primordial deities together. That's what I think he was trying to do. Think about this as well. Sargeras is on fire, and he's connected with Argus, who is apparently undergoing torment and suffering. Let me ask you guys something. In Revendreth, how do you produce anima? What do they do? Torture. Can you imagine many things more agonizing than being eternally on fire? Think about it. Who are some of the characters who went to Revendreth? Argus turns Revendreth torture red during the mythic fight. You know what abilities he starts using when he turns red and black? Sargeras. Sargeras' fear. Sargeras' rage. Sentence of Sargeras. One of my newest theories is that the energy inside Sargeras' sword is potentially he and or Argus's anima, born from suffering and penance. Through torture and agony, he filled this blade with energy. And maybe even with said energy was trying to regenerate Argus, maybe rebuild him in such a fashion that he could use him and use the anima to basically jumpstart Azeroth. Because what does anima do? Think about this. Anima is a power source born from the energy siphoned off of a soul, right? If Sargeras is suffering, the anima's red and black for a reason. It's said that Sargeras succumbed to his fear. Sargeras, if you were to assign a class to him, it would be warrior. Warriors have a special ability called Berserker Rage, and it turns your eyes red. Do you know what Berserker Rage does? It breaks fear, saps, and sleeps. Removes fear and control effects. When Sargeras is feeling Berserker Rage, he is not fearful. And maybe he was. Maybe he was up until the point of becoming corrupted. I mean, if he was dominated, did you guys see Anduin's face when he broke free from domination? He was horrified when he stuck that sword into the chest of the Archon. He was horrified. Sargeras is enraged. He becomes free when he undergoes this effect. What I'm saying is that Sargeras being on fire is not a comfortable situation for him, I don't think. I think he is probably in agony most of the time. And if he's not, it's probably because he's siphoning that through Argus and then taking the resultant anima and imbuing it into his sword. Perhaps he believed that by imbuing his sword with the raw power of death that he could kill Azeroth. But I don't think that's the case. I think Sargeras is aware of what Azeroth and Argus are, and I think that he sought to put them together. What he did with his sword actually did the opposite of what a Mournblade would do. Think about this, chat. If someone can figure out how to craft a blade that can suck a soul out of a living being or split a soul in half, then why could someone not reverse engineer a sword that could be used to put a fucking soul back together? Why not? How else do you fix it? Think about, I was watching the Shadowlands cinematics. I know. I was watching them. And the amount of attention and importance that they draw to all the different swords is insane. They literally don't even need Anduin Wrynn. They needed the sword he was wielding. It was the vessel to collect the sigils. It literally was sucking the essence out of them, and he was delivering it to the fucking jailer. Like, what? It was, the sword was the insidious corruption that had seeped into him because of what Sylvanas did, with what the jailer did, forcing it upon him. And I hate to say this, but without all of kind of some of the terrible gameplay, if you watch all the Shadowlands cinematics in order, they're actually not, it's not the most terrible thing I've ever seen. I mean, think about it. Sargeras, even if it's demon souls or whatever, this guy knows, I think this guy knows a little bit about how souls work. I think his is quite literally on fire. And maybe it's because, maybe wielding the sword is what, you know? Again, why is the eye in the sword, chat? The sword is the most important thing ever. Why is the eye in the sword, and what does it represent? This, I'll show you. The eye in the sword has always been the same thing, in my opinion. It's always been there. No matter if it's the avatar, a depiction of the avatar, the Antorus art, Hearthstone art, they always have the eye in the blade. Ogmod even says, that blade has shiny eye. Always watching us. Why you no see? Well, when we see the blade, what's in it? Like we talked about, the energy. Apocalypse. Maybe this is the result of Sargeras feeding Argus anima. Maybe this is, think about it like this. Sargeras undergoing immeasurable amounts of torment and agony is generating a fuckload of anima. Probably red and black because he's I mean, think about this. He's prideful. You know what I'm saying? That's what they say about him anyway. You know, a lot of people say he's prideful. Very prideful. He would go to Revendreth, I think. Like Garrosh. And the insane amount of anima that was being pulled out of him. And so what if then, let me think about this. There's a couple ways you could do it. You could do it so that by holding the sword, which has some of Argus in it, any agony, and we know they were connected. Magni says Sargeras and Argus are connected. We have to sever that connection by taking them to the seat of the Pantheon, the Titan's seat of power. So we're going to go use the seat of the Pantheon to sever the connection between this world soul of Argus and presumably Sargeras or Sargeras' soul. If he's holding the blade which has him, if Argus is undergoing any torment, that might just literally extend to Sargeras, like a shared torment kind of situation. People say the memory of the Dark Titan, it makes them think of a Void Titan because it's life bloom, which makes no fucking sense to me. What? What this actually does for druids is it makes it so your life bloom can hit 2 targets, but it does 10% less. So it's like, hey, we can share this healing, or maybe the implication is also damage, and it will be slightly less worse for both of us than if one of us were to take all of it ourselves. Okay? So if that's the case, their torment is probably being shared. So if Argus is being tormented, whether it's by Sargeras or by the Pantheon or whatever, and Sargeras is connected to him or wielding the sword, he's feeling that. So if Argus is kept in a dreaming state where he's not feeling any pain, that's a reference to 1,000 Years of War, right here. This being was so much more powerful than the minion of the shadow had been. Then Illyria had witnessed flashes of destiny. Now, she lived a history that surpassed the existence of the universe. It was energy, spinning out into the cosmos. It found warmth near a sun, and a world formed around it to protect it as it grew. Generations of life lived and died upon it. It was betrayed. It was bound by something powerful. Amanthul says, time answers to me, Unmaker, the one force that can bind your relentless fury. Pain. Pain. It hurt so much. Its only solace lay within its dream. They enslaved worlds. They burned worlds. They used its strength to revive their fallen souls. It hurt so much. They found another. It was much more powerful. They wanted to claim it, too. Then they would be unstoppable. It screamed into the cosmos for help. 2 children answered the call. 2 bright lights. 2 bright lights from Azeroth. A world that was like Argus. I just got here. What's that from? That's from 1,000 Years of War. It's when Argus is communicating its memories in one single uncontrolled burst. If Sargeras and Argus link, did some of those Brain Blast messages come from Sargeras? I think they tried to make it pretty straightforward that it was coming from Argus. But I think that if it can show its memories and things to Illyria, which, by the way, Turalyon can't see. So, when Illyria is communicating with Argus, she's, like, unconscious. And Turalyon is like, what the fuck is going on with her? And he's not seeing it. And Turalyon's Lightforged. And by this point, Illyria is very much into the void. And she gets a whisper in her head. She says, why had he not seen it? And the whisper says, because he is not free. So, because he was Lightforged, he couldn't hear Argus. He couldn't... It just didn't connect. Which is, I think, super fascinating. Is it possible the flames are a way to stay in bloodlust and be free of domination? Yes, that's what I'm saying, yes. That if yeah, that's what I'm saying. And we should be afraid. We should be afraid.